Discover how one amazing encounter with a homeless girl transformed a family's life forever. Sarah Johnson trudged down the street, her heart heavy with each step, after yet another letdown in her search for a part-time job to help her family through their financial struggles. The prestigious university she had dreamed of attending felt like a distant memory now, a mirage fading from view. She hesitated at the park entrance, mind swirling with uncertainty. What if she was never going to be enough? What if her family's situation crumbled further, lost in the tides of a failing economy? Would they lose their home? The once proud Johnson family had become shadows of their former selves. John, a talented architect who used to design sleek, modern homes, now searching for work anywhere he could find it. Mary, once the light of their household filled with laughter and love, now carried an invisible burden of worry that dulled her nurturing warmth. Sarah felt the weight of it, the sense of desperation that came with dwindling savings and mounting bills. Anxiety coiled in her stomach as she made her way to the familiar bench in the park, the one spot that had served as her retreat in these tough times. Before she could even sit down, she noticed a girl around her age laughing beside her, a carefree sound that struck an odd contrast to her own heavy thoughts. Lily's laughter pulled at something within Sarah, a lightness lost in her life. As they exchanged words, Lily's vivid stories unfolded like a tapestry of hardships and hope. It was jarring at first. How could someone without a roof over their head exude such vitality? Life is tough, Lily said, her eyes flashing with intent, but it's how we choose to see it that counts. Sarah listened, grappling with conflicting emotions. Lily's stories painted a world of resilience and tenacity that jolted something in Sarah's heart, an ember of hope. But a voice in her head whispered doubts. How could she connect with someone living in the harshness of the streets when her own family hovered on the brink of financial chaos? Before they parted, Sarah's phone buzzed with an alert, a reminder of her latest job rejection. She felt a knot tighten in her chest. How was she going to convince her family that helping someone like Lily was worthwhile? Could she defend her choice against her parents' worry and fear? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The evening dinner table buzzed with an anxious energy as John and Mary discussed the household budget. The conversation veered toward the dangers lurking near their property, a topic that had become all too familiar. You know, we need to watch out for the kind of people who might approach us from the wrong side of the street, Mary said with a comforting yet unintentionally judgmental tone. Sarah's heart sank at her mother's words. Suddenly, there was a wall between her budding friendship with Lily and her family's perspective, one built on apprehension and bias. Mom, you don't get it, she burst out, surprising herself with the heated outburst. Lily's not just some statistic. She is a person. Just like us. The room went quiet, an air of disbelief hanging thick. The conflict in Sarah bubbled over. She felt torn and guilty, knowing she was challenging her parents' fears but driven by something stronger, an unearthed sense of empathy that threatened to fracture the delicate balance of their family unit. Would they be able to see Lily as she did, or would her loyalty to her family force her to choose a side? As tension enveloped the table, Sarah sensed that questions of connection and belonging hung in the air, unresolved but demanding resolution. The outcome felt precariously poised, and with each moment, the stakes rose higher. The morning sun breached the horizon with a blinding light, illuminating the Johnson home, a structure that now appeared worn and weary, much like its inhabitants. Sarah awoke with a sense of rebellion brewing within her, like a storm poised to break. The conversations from last night replayed in her mind, each word striking a chord of guilt and determination. She slipped into her clothes, the familiar fabric offering little comfort today. Today, she resolved, there would be no dismissive remarks, no sidestepping the truth she now carried. Sarah couldn't ignore Lily's resilience after feeling its pulsating energy firsthand. It filled her with resolve, and she had to find a way to bridge the gaps between her family and the world that was folding in on them. Determined to shift the narrative, Sarah grabbed her journal and made her way back to the park, her heartbeat quickening with both hope and fear. What if Lily wasn't just a fleeting encounter but a doorway to change? The park enveloped her, its greenery swaying gently as if cheering her on. She spotted Lily almost immediately, sitting on the same bench, sketching with vibrant colors that contrasted starkly against the dullness Sarah felt inside. Hey! I came to see you, she announced, surprising herself with her sudden boldness. Lily looked up, her face blooming into a radiant smile. Intrigued by the day's offerings, Sarah took a seat beside her. How does it feel to be an artist in the world? She asked, feeling the sunlight warm her skin, a stark contrast to the chill of doubt that had crept her mind for weeks. Lily paused her sketching, laying down her pencil. It feels like freedom and responsibility at the same time. You get to reframe the world through your own eyes, but you must share it with others, whether they want to see it or not. The weight of those words sunk deep. A realization lingered, Sarah's voice filtered through her doubt like sunlight through clouds. She hesitated but knew that in sharing her art, Lily was challenging societal perceptions. I think I need to do something, Sarah said suddenly. I can't just sit back anymore. My family, they don't understand you, but maybe I could show them. Lily eyed her thoughtfully. You can't convince them if you don't know what you want to convey. What do you want them to feel? The question hung in the air, heavy with possibility. Sarah found her thoughts racing. It was more than just sifting through emotions, it was a call to arms, a chance to represent not just Lily, but the humanity often overlooked in their daily lives. The juxtaposition of her family's fears and Lily's strength motivated her, igniting a flame of clarity. I want them to see the hope, she decided, her voice more determined than before. I want to spotlight the courage it takes to rise from hardship. As their conversation moved into practical ideas, gathering stories, creating art together, Sarah felt invigorated. They could craft something tangible, an exhibition of voices intertwined, showcasing the struggles and triumphs of individuals often deemed invisible. But as the sun dipped lower, a shadow passed over their delight. What would happen when Sarah returned home? Would her impassioned plans ripple through the fears of her parents, or would they add fuel to their worries? Returning home, Sarah felt the raw tension twisting in her gut. If she shared her ambitions, if she dared to intertwine her life with Lily's, what repercussions would it bring? The looming confrontation with her parents weighed heavily, concern battling against her newfound resolve. Could she articulate the importance of her connection with Lily, or was her family too mired in fear to understand? As she opened the first door, the answer felt like an impending storm. One that she could either embrace or face alone. The moment of truth was near. As Sarah stepped inside the Johnson home, the familiar sense of coffee and breakfast filled her senses, but they felt foreign today. The warmth that typically welcomed her transformed into a weight pressing down on her shoulders. She moved through the narrow hallway, mentally rehearsing her words, battling with the self-doubt that whispered for her to retreat. Her parents were seated at the small kitchen table, papers strewn about, their faces etched with concern. The air was thick with unspoken tension, and as Sarah approached, their eyes lifted, searching her face for signs of the daughter they knew. Could they sense the flickering ambition she carried within her? Or were they too engulfed in their own fears to grasp the change unfolding within her? Hey, how was the park? Her mother asked, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. It was enlightening, Sarah replied, her voice steadier than she felt. She paused, a torrent of words rushing through her mind, each one vying to be spoken first. I met someone. Her name is Lily. Both parents exchanged glances, their expressions faltering between curiosity and concern. Lily? Her father echoed, a wary tone creeping into his voice. Is she, from around here? Sarah recognized the unasked questions in their eyes, questions of safety, of the unfamiliar, of the chaos they wanted to keep at bay. Rooting herself in the moment, she fought the instinct to dismiss them. She lives in the park. But there is so much more to her story. She is resilient. She inspires hope, and her words faltered, then steadied again. I want to help her share her art with others. Her father leaned back in his chair. Sarah, I'm not sure this is a good idea. We don't know anything about her. You don't know her either. I know her humanity, Sarah countered, the fire igniting within her once more. She has a perspective that most people ignore. I want to show them. I want to create something that reflects not just her life, but the lives of everyone who feels invisible. Her mother's face softened slightly, perhaps she sensed the sincerity woven into Sarah's plea. But what about your studies? Your future? Think of all you have worked for, all the plans we've made. I can't just go on with my life pretending everything is okay for people like Lily. What good is my future if it doesn't include understanding and connection? Her story, their stories, deserve to be told. Can't you understand that? The words spilled out with an intensity that surprised even her. Silence hung thickly in the kitchen, each family member wrestling with the weight of her insistence. Sarah watched as her mother wrestled with her ideals about safety and caution, while her father's hardened expression began to soften. What if she is troubled? Her father finally asked, a hint of protection creeping into his voice. What if she is? Sarah challenged, her voice unwavering. That doesn't make her any less worthy of being seen, any less deserving of compassion. She has dreams, just like any of us. They just look different. As her passion-filled voice echoed around the table, she saw the flickers of understanding ignite in her parents' eyes. They were beginning to question their own beliefs, to push past their fears, but there was still a mountain to climb. One conversation wouldn't be enough. Sarah leaned in, her heart hammering. Will you at least listen? Will you help me understand how to present this to others? I need your support. The atmosphere held a promising tension as her mother nodded slowly, the slightest hint of a smile breaking through. We'll talk about it, her father replied cautiously, revealing no verbal promise, but the shift in his body language suggested a willingness to consider. But as relief started to wash over her, a gnawing thought nestled in her mind. What if, even after all this, they still rejected the notion of risk in favor of comfort? What if her efforts to showcase Lily's strength only deepened her family's fears? Sarah bit her lip, contemplating the path ahead. Could she really weave her family's perspective and Lily's truth into something transformative? Tomorrow would unveil more than she anticipated. Another encounter surely awaited, an even greater test of her convictions. The storm ahead was not just internal, it would soon clash with the perceptions of those she loved most dearly. The dawn broke through the curtains the next morning, and Sarah lay awake, her mind racing with the possibilities ahead. Today would be pivotal. It wasn't just about sitting down with Lily again, but about transforming the very fabric through which she was woven, her family's beliefs, her own identity. Rising from bed, she felt the sharp bite of determination replace the lingering trepidation that had clouded her thoughts. After a quick breakfast, she slipped outside, the cool air invigorating her senses. The park called to her, not merely as a destination, but as a catalyst for change. With every step she took, Sarah envisioned how she could frame Lily's journey through art, capturing the raw beauty of resilience. But an equally pressing thought lingered, how to take her parents along on this journey, to bridge the gap between their fears and her vision. Arriving at the park, a familiar sight greeted her, Lily painting on a tattered canvas, colors spilling out like dreams daring to emerge. Hey, Lily, Sarah called, her voice buoyed by excitement. The bright smile that illuminated Lily's face was like a sun breaking through clouds. Sarah. You came back. Lily exclaimed, her brush pausing mid-stroke, hues merging on the canvas. What did you think of the art I showed you yesterday? I loved it, Sarah responded, stepping closer, the vibrancy of technique igniting her spirit. I know you have so much more to share. I want to help you tell your story. Lily tilted her head, intrigue casting a shadow of doubt. But why? It's just my life, a life that doesn't mean much. But it does. Sarah insisted, fierce resolution urging her forward. Your experiences, your perspective, they're invaluable. I want to showcase your art and the stories behind it, to help others see the beauty in what they often overlook. There was a quiver of uncertainty in Lily's eyes, an echo of disbelief. What if they don't want to see it? What if my story only frightens them? The moment hung in the air, dense with unspoken fears. Sarah felt her heart race at the reality of the question. Here she stood, driven by conviction, yet painfully aware of the risks both for herself and for Lily. Then we'll find a way to show them how it connects us all. It's about empathy, understanding, and I need you to trust me. Lily's brow furrowed, caught between fear and the glimmer of hope. It's a big risk. What if you fail? I see every risk a step toward growth. I'm ready to face rejection for you, for your art. But only if you're willing to lean into the fear with me. For a long moment, they exchanged a gaze that bridged their differences, a profound connection sparking in the space between them. Slowly, Lily nodded, the hint of resolve returning. Okay. Let us do it. Back at home later, Sarah felt the weight of how to present this profound transformation to her parents. It dawned on her that she needed to demonstrate the human connection she felt with Lily, to manifest everything they struggled against in the comfort of their home. Art could be a new language, one that they could understand. When she finally sat down with them, table cluttered with papers and remnants of their morning beyond her, Sarah prepared herself. "I've taken a big step today," she began, heart racing and palms clammy. She told them about Lily, the transcendent conversation, the trust they had begun to forge. "I want us all to go see her art together to understand what this means." Her parents' expressions shifted, eyebrows raised in disbelief. "You're asking us to be introduced to someone you barely know?" her father questioned, skepticism heavy in his voice. "This isn't just about safety," Sarah pressed, securing inspiration against clouds of doubt. "It's about understanding the struggles we don't acknowledge. It's about connection, and it can change our lives forever." She saw the tension clash in her parents' eyes, a cacophony of protectiveness and the possibility of growth. The seconds stretched into a tension-filled silence. Resolute, she sat back, feeling the tremors of fear and anticipation. Would they embrace this journey, or would their comfort cling too tightly, suffocating her ambition before it could even begin? In that pulsating moment, Sarah pushed deeper. Could she grapple not only with her own desires but also reshape her family's legacy? The encounter with Lily had spun their lives into delicate webs, and tomorrow would demand clarity on whose voice would reverberate in their decisions. With a fragile balance teetering between courage and hesitation, she inhaled, ready to confront her family's reservations head-on. The stakes were higher than ever. Tomorrow would dictate not only her path but also the emotional landscape of everyone she loved. The next morning brought an unsettling stillness to Sarah's home, a stark contrast to the whirlwind of thoughts spiraling in her mind. She had barely slept, replaying all the possible reactions of her parents. She now felt both exhilarated and terrified of what lay ahead. Could she truly expect them to embrace something so foreign to their entrenched beliefs? After a simple breakfast, she stood in front of the mirror, examining herself. Her reflection bore the weight of her uncertainty. This time, however, she didn't shy away from the question echoing within her: who did she want to be? The girl who retreated under the weight of familial expectations, or the woman carving a path alongside someone like Lily? She clenched her fists, a spark igniting within her commitment to authenticity. Arriving at the park, Sarah felt her heart quicken as she spotted Lily. Today, she needed to bring this newfound resolve not only to her parents but also to Lily. The vibrant colors on the canvas before her felt symbolic, each stroke a testament to resilience. "Lily," Sarah called out, her voice steadier than it felt, "I'm ready to help you share your story. But I also need you to be prepared for what it might mean." Lily nodded slowly, her eyes darting from the canvas to Sarah. "I want to try, but what if it changes things for both of us?" "Change is often unsettling," Sarah replied, "but it's also where growth resides. We'll face it together." They began discussing potential themes and narratives. As they spoke, Sarah could see Lily's spirit flicker with excitement, her hesitation slowly melting away in the sunlight. It dawned on Sarah that this wasn't merely helping Lily, it was a journey that would transform both of them. Later that afternoon, when she returned home, Sarah felt a renewed sense of purpose. The conversation with Lily reverberated within her, reinforcing her belief that art could transcend barriers. She needed to convey this vision to her parents. She'd have to lay bare not just the facts but also her feelings, punctuating her intentions with the passion that had ignited within her. Setting the scene that evening felt like stepping onto a stage with the spotlight fixed on her. Sarah's throat tightened as she gathered her parents in the living room, the air thick with anticipation and unspoken apprehension. "I'm going to share something important about my time with Lily," she began, heart hammering against her chest. "You might think of her as just a stranger, but I've come to see her as a vital part of a larger story. I feel compelled to help her share her journey through art." "What does that even mean?" her father interjected, disbelief shadowing his features. "This girl, you don't even know her. How can you trust her?" A rush of frustration sprang up within Sarah, but she knew this was crucial, pivotal in confronting the paradigm of fear that imprisoned her family. "It means I believe in the power of connection. We can learn so much from someone different from us," she stated with a strength she didn't entirely feel. "If we choose to understand her story, it could bring us closer as a family." Her mother's brow furrowed, masking the traces of worry lingering in her eyes. "And what if it doesn't end well, Sarah? People can hurt you. This isn't a fairy tale." With every word, Sarah felt as if she were dismantling a tower of bricks, layers of fear, skepticism, and old habits that had built their lives. "Mom, this isn't about fairy tales, it's about real life. Every story holds lessons about life, about privilege, about empathy. I want to bring Lily's voice into our home. It's essential. Silence permeated the room while Sarah's parents exchanged glances, their skepticism visibly battling against the inklings of curiosity. The verbal sparring felt agonizing as they weighed each word, the stakes higher than she'd anticipated. Amid that tension, she took a breath, her gaze steady on her parents, willing them to see the sincerity radiating from her. Please, she implored gently, let me show you how beautiful understanding can be. The pivotal moment hung uncomfortably, yet she sensed an undercurrent of willingness beneath their apprehension. Promising a commitment felt like a vow, a leap of faith into uncharted territory. But deep down, Sarah knew that whether they accepted the journey or not, her growth had already begun. As the silence stretched, her resolve coalesced into a definitive question in her mind: how would they respond when faced with the humanity of another soul, one that lived outside their bubble? The clock ticked ominously, and she realized she was standing at the cusp of transformation, not just for herself but for the very core of her family. What would it take to tip the scale toward understanding, and could she finally forge the bond she so desperately sought? The moment hung thick with uncertainty, and Sarah's heart raced as her parents seemed lost in contemplation. She wanted desperately to break their silence, to fill the room with hope and conviction, but the words felt tangled in her throat. They were grappling with the unknown, a struggle she, too, had faced just moments before stepping into the living room. To distract herself, she focused on the heavy stillness around them, her mind casting back to her conversations with Lily. Each word they had exchanged flared in her memory like embers in the dark. Could her parents understand the depth of those exchanges? Could they truly comprehend how the simple act of shared stories could build bridges? Mom, Dad, she began, resolutely forcing her voice through the walls of silence. This isn't just about me helping Lily, it's about all of us growing together. This experience can teach us all something invaluable. We've become so set in our ways. I want us to embrace who we can be, not just who we are. Her mother shifted slightly, the hint of a frown still etched on her brow. What do you mean by who we can be? She asked, her voice softer, perhaps sensing the weight of her daughter's sincerity. I mean, Sarah continued, feeling the spark of determination flare stronger, that we have the choice to be more compassionate, more understanding. Our lives have been filled with comfort and predictability, but there is a world outside those walls. What if we opened our hearts to it? What if we took the risk of allowing someone with a different story into ours? It could mean so much, perhaps even teach us more about ourselves. At that moment, every nerve in Sarah's body was on fire. She was rehearsing lines not just to gain approval but to incite change. She was convinced of her message, but doubt clouded her thoughts about whether her parents would be capable of embracing such a radical idea. She had taken a leap off the cliff, and now she waited with bated breath to see if they would follow. Her father remained solemn, his brow knitting deeper as he pondered her words. It's not that simple, Sarah. Life is messy. People out there, they can exploit your kindness. We've worked hard to keep you safe from the dangers that exist. I understand that, Dad. But I can't live my life in fear of what might happen. To truly live means to step into the unknown, to take risks. In that moment, Sarah realized the very foundation her parents were clinging to was built on fear, a fear she had shared for so long. But as she stood here, resolute and transformed by her connection to Lily, she wanted to shatter that reliance. What if this journey allows me to become a better version of myself? She implored, locking eyes with both of them. What if it brings our family closer in ways we've never imagined? The air turned electric with a palpable tension, as the flicker of hesitance began to wane in her parents' expressions. Sarah's pulse quickened, something had shifted, even if only imperceptibly. But as her heart began to swell with fragile hope, her father's voice broke through. And what about when it gets hard, Sarah? Will you be able to handle that, handle her? What if it costs us more than we are prepared to give? The question landed heavily, resonating with hidden fears. The uncertainty of vulnerability unfolded before her like a dark horizon. Would she be strong enough to keep pushing through when the journey turned jagged? Would Lily's story cast shadows in her own life, drawing her into complexities beyond her control? Life isn't a checklist of risks we can tally and dismiss, Dad, she countered, each word tempered with clarity. It's an ever-evolving confluence of experiences. I'm asking you to trust me. This is bigger than me helping Lily. It's us redefining ourselves to face complexities and grow from them. Silence loomed again, punctuated by her parents' uncertain reactions. Her heart thumped loudly as she realized they were truly considering their daughter's words. The acceptance would signify a monumental shift not just in her life, but in how they all connected as a family. She waited, searching their faces for even a flicker of acceptance, for any sign that they were ready to join her on this uncertain journey. But just as she began to feel emboldened, her mother's next question cut through almost brutally. And what if this ends in heartbreak? In that heartbeat, Sarah understood that their hesitation was rooted as much in their love for her as it was in their fear of the unknown. Her next decision loomed vast and potent, the path ahead twisted with potential beauty and pitfalls alike. Swallowing hard, she recognized she was on the verge of crafting a new chapter for herself and her family, a chapter filled with possibilities they hadn't yet dared to imagine. That's exactly why I need your support to take the leap. The air remained thick, fraught with tension, the echoes of doubt still hanging heavily. But Sarah stood firm, resolved to expose the richness of life, whether it unfolded in joy or sorrow. She realized that transformation was rarely easy, it was often forged in the fire of discomfort. Would they take that leap with her? Would her plea for understanding break through the barrier of their fears? As all eyes lingered in a fragile stillness, she sensed she was on the edge of irrevocable change, a moment of truth that just might redefine their family forever. The clock ticked ominously, and she wrestled with the question that loomed next: could she accept whatever may come, knowing that understanding and love was often born from uncertainty? In the electric silence that followed Sarah's impassioned plea, she felt waves of conflicting emotions crashing within her. Her heart fought against the weight of expectancy, the anxiety of her parents' decision pressing against her chest like a physical weight. With every second stretching into an eternity, she wrestled with her own doubts, questioning if she truly had the strength to forge this new path alone. Her mother's eyes flickered, betraying a glimpse of vulnerability, but her father remained stoic. This was it, the moment that could either catalyze their metamorphosis or send them retreating further into their fears. "You talk about risk," he finally said, his voice subdued but firm. "But have you thought about the potential consequences? We can't just wade into something without considering the dangers." The words stung, cutting into her optimism and resurfacing an age-old frustration. "Dad, if we only focus on risks, we'll never experience the beauty that life can offer us. What you see as dangers, I see as opportunities." "Opportunities often come with painful lessons," her mother interjected quietly. "What if you get hurt? What if this leads to disappointment for you?" This was an unfathomable reality for Sarah. But as she considered her own heart amid the turmoil of potential heartbreak, she felt a flicker of resolution. "I'm ready to face whatever comes," she responded, her voice gaining strength. "Being vulnerable may open me up to pain, but it will also teach me resilience, compassion, and understanding things that matter more than being comfortable." As her parents processed her words, Sarah couldn't ignore the echo of Lily's laughter, the way their conversations had opened doors she had previously thought were locked. She didn't want to allow her family's fears to trap her within invisible confines. Instead, she pictured the potential joys and growth stemming from this journey, the new perspectives that awaited. "Can you trust me?" she asked, her tone earnest, holding her parents' gaze. "This isn't just about helping Lily. It's about learning to navigate the complexities of life together, not shying away because of what it might cost us." Seconds ticked by like hours, each heartbeat resonating with hope and trepidation. The air buzzed around them as if the universe awaited their decision. Sarah recognized the gravity of this moment. It was one of those rare instances in life where the lines of fate blurred and she stood at the crossroads that could redefine everything. "Your willingness to step into this with me could redefine our family," she finally whispered, her voice raw with emotion. "We are not without flaws, but I believe we can do better, together." Her father's brow furrowed, and Sarah realized that he wasn't just resisting change, he was battling his own memories of past mistakes, pain overshadowing possibilities. "It's hard to give up the known for the unknown," he admitted, a revelation shining through his defenses. "Yes, it is. But what if we rebuild that trust together? What if we create our own narrative, one that is filled with growth, understanding, and love?" Her insistence bore the weight of every challenge she had faced, of every moment she had stepped outside her comfort zone. Sitting in that living room, Sarah felt the power of their shared history around them. Their unspoken fears intertwined with her burgeoning dreams, and the possibility of embracing life instead of avoiding it began to breathe. "I want you to join me on this journey," she said again, voicing a truth that felt like it had simmered too long in her heart. "Will you trust me enough to step into this with me?" In the sacred pause that followed, she realized that this decision was not just about Lily but about family ties transcending their comfort zone. It was a collective growth that would redefine them as individuals and as a family. But regardless of the outcome, Sarah felt a fire igniting within her, a flame of empowerment that urged her forward. As the moment stretched, one thought emerged crisper than the rest: they were teetering on the brink of discovery, each choice carrying weight, dignity, and the potential for a new beginning. Would they rise to the challenge, or would fear ultimately anchor them back into their previous lives? Just then, her mother's soft voice pierced through the tension. "Maybe it's time we opened our hearts after all." Sarah's heart soared, but before she could react, her father raised a hand, signaling her to wait. "This is not a decision we can make lightly. We need to think this through." That thought sent a ripple of urgency through Sarah. Would they reconsider her plea? Did her parents hold the courage she needed, or would they falter once more? The moment of truth hung unreleased, leaving her heart pounding as the door to their future remained wide open, teetering precariously. What would be the next step in this delicate dance of trust and uncertainty? Her father's insistence on caution hung in the air, thick and palpable, as if a storm were brewing just outside the window. Sarah felt compelled to channel the rising tumult inside her into clarity. It was imperative to not only advocate for herself but to create a narrative that would illuminate the potential for change within their family. Each word became a stepping stone for the transformation she envisioned. "Dad," she began again, her voice trembling slightly with trepidation, "I get that you want to protect us, but sometimes the most beautiful things come from the most chaotic situations. This journey isn't just about Lily, it's about us re-examining who we are and what we stand for. Isn't that worth exploring, even if it's scary?" Her heart pounded in rhythm with the intensity of her words. She could sense the shift in the room, a subtle weaving of possibility and hope through her parents' expressions. Her mother's gaze softened, and she could sense the slightest crack in her father's stoic facade, as something deeper began to awaken in him, the kindling of curiosity amidst reluctance. "Think of this as a trial," Sarah urged, her mind racing to construct a compelling vision. "We can try without committing everything at once. It can be small steps, just conversations, just connections. Nobody is suggesting we abandon our lives, only that we enrich them." An echo of shared memories washed over them, and Sarah could almost hear the laughter of simpler times, moments when they faced uncertainties together, and love triumphed over fear. Yet, as the silence settled once more, she confronted her own scruples. What if a proposal led to something that tore their family apart instead of binding them? Was she certain enough in her own convictions? In the recesses of her thoughts, a new image emerged, fragments of Lily's face, the unguarded warmth in her laughter, the way hope twinkled in her eyes despite the harshness surrounding her. Sarah had been struck by that flame and had come to understand that her own passion and resolve could be contagious. This endeavor was uniquely personal and transformative, far too significant to leave untried. "Perhaps we can find a way to give back that also helps us grow," her mother finally spoke, a hint of resolution threading through her uncertainty. "Maybe dipping our toes in would allow us to feel more comfortable." The mention of involvement ignited renewed vigor in Sarah. "Exactly. We can volunteer together, help out at a shelter. This way, we can be of service and learn from people whose lives differ from ours, understanding beyond mere sympathy." "But what if it's too much for us?" her father questioned, the flicker of skepticism still dancing in his voice. His concern felt familiar, it echoed through their shared history of wrestling with trust and missteps. The contours of his love were always bound with caution. "We'll never know if we don't try," Sarah countered, her breath catching with renewed fervor. "This may be our chance to open doors and dismantle the barriers we've unknowingly constructed over the years. Let us take this chance to discover what we are truly capable of." As her words hung between them, challenging and inviting, Sarah sensed an unspoken agreement blooming in the tension-filled air. The prospect of this shared venture loomed, alive and pulsing with potential, as she stared into the eyes of the two people she loved most. "What do you say, you two?" Her voice was steady, maintaining balance between hope and apprehension. "Will you join me in this adventure?" After a fraught silence, her father shifted in his seat, the tension on his brows easing into contemplation. "Perhaps we start with just one visit to the shelter. It may not be what we expect, but it's a start." "Yes," her mother echoed, a spark igniting in her voice. "We can see how it feels together." Relief surged through Sarah, cascading over her doubts like a wave crashing upon the shore. They were no longer standing at the edge of fear but taking tentative yet brave steps toward the unknown. She immediately felt the weight of their collective responsibility a chance to redefine connection, love, and trust. However, with hope came a flicker of anxiety. This decision was only the beginning, the challenge was far more complex than it appeared on the surface. Would their hearts remain open when faced with the harsh realities beyond their bubbles? As her family embraced the promise of something new, Sarah pondered the transformations to come, discoveries that could change them in ways they hadn't considered. And in that moment, with the world outside still waiting, she realized that they were only just beginning to scratch the surface of their potential. Would they emerge as a unit forged by empathy and understanding, or would the complexities of their choices unravel the very threads binding them? Closing her eyes, a long breath escaped her lips, signaling her readiness to dive deeper into the unknown, unaware of how profoundly this journey would test their fortitude. Would the intertwining paths of their lives lead them closer, or shatter the foundations upon which they stood? The following Saturday dawned, the sun spilling golden light across the kitchen table where Sarah sat, brimming with anticipation. She skimmed through her notes, the outlines of conversation she hoped to have swirling in her mind, each potential interaction a thread in the tapestry of connection she envisioned. Every detail mattered, from how to approach the volunteers at the shelter to how best to interact with those who might feel invisible. As her parents rustled through the house, their nerves were palpable, an undercurrent of apprehension mingled with the excitement of venturing into the unknown. They were about to step into a realm that could fracture or strengthen their fragile familial bond. Sarah understood this excursion wasn't just about their actions, it symbolized a journey lay ahead for each of them. "Are you ready?" her mother asked, her voice carrying a hint of tremor. Sarah noticed the way her mother's fingers danced nervously on the table, revealing her internal conflict, a vivid example of the hesitation they now face collectively. "Do you think it'll be challenging?" her father chimed in, seeking reassurance as they laced up their shoes. His eyes betrayed the worry hiding behind his steadfast demeanor. "The stories, the emotions, I'm not sure how I'll handle it." "That's normal," Sarah assured, wrestling with her own fears. "But remember, we aren't here to save anyone. We're here to listen, to connect. That's our purpose today." The words were as much for her parents as they were for her. She needed to convince herself that this was a significant step forward, not a leap into chaos. As they piled into the car, vulnerability coursed through the air, but so did determination. The drive seemed both short and excruciatingly prolonged, punctuated by moments of silence filled with unasked questions. Upon arriving at the shelter, Sarah stepped onto the pavement, her heart racing with an electric mix of trepidation and determination. The shelter loomed in front of them, a stark structure that had seen countless lives pass through its doors. It represented both a refuge and a harsh reminder of what lay outside the safety of their home. Together, they entered the building, hearts pounding, minds racing. The interior buzzed with the sounds of interaction, conversations low and warm, laughter mingling with the faint scent of coffee brewing. Almost immediately, Sarah was drawn toward a small table in the corner, where a few volunteers began to gather materials for a crafts session. She approached them with a smile, her nervousness dissolving slightly in the face of their openness. "Hi. We're here to help. What can we do?" she asked, working to sound more confident than she felt. As they split into different areas within the shelter, Sarah engaged with a group of children, her face lighting up as they shared stories of their lives. There was a girl named Maya, whose fierce spirit captivated Sarah, the kind of fierce that gleamed with hope despite darkened circumstances. As Sarah listened, she became acutely aware, not just of Maya's words, but of the depth of resilience layered within each expression. Her parents, struggling at first to mingle, gradually found their stride. They joined in conversations with other volunteers and patrons, their hesitation slowly fading. Sarah could see her father's brow relax as he joked with the men about baseball, the threads of commonality weaving through their differences. But amidst the warmth of newfound connections, a sense of urgency gripped Sarah. She was aware that the challenges they faced went well beyond superficial interactions. Did they truly know how to navigate the painful realities of life that lay just beneath the surface? As the day progressed, the conversations grew deeper, filled with vulnerability and stories that weighed heavily. For Sarah, these encounters ignited a fire within her. They were an awakening. Here was a chance to confront her own sheltered upbringing, to grapple with the very real existence of suffering and struggle. When it was finally time to leave, Sarah's heart ached with a sense of loss. Each moment spent within those walls had been a chance to grow, and she had yearned for more understanding, more connection. As they stepped outside into the reality of their world, Sarah felt a heaviness cling to her, a deeper understanding dawning. With each step toward the car, she pondered what lay ahead. Had they merely scratched the surface of understanding, or had they allowed fragments of these lives to seep into their own, irrevocably changing them? And as they drove away, she dared to question the fabric of their identity. The feeling of anxiety crept back in, but alongside it came a determination, a newfound resolve that hadn't existed before. They had to continue this venture. Can we return next week? Sarah asked suddenly, the urgency in her voice firm. She could see the glances exchanged between her parents, now richer with understanding. There is so much more to explore, we can't leave it like this. This wasn't just about a family outing anymore, it had morphed into a potent exploration of identity and societal realities, exposing fissures they had long avoided. Perhaps Sarah was beginning to realize that true transformation was not just an exploration of the outside world, it mirrored the depth of her own psyche and the depths of her family's capacity to change. Would they find the courage to face these realities together again, or would the weight of their experiences become too burdensome to bear? The looming question hung heavily in the air as they left the shelter behind, the road ahead shrouded in uncertainty. The following Saturday dawned with a vibrant hue that painted the sky a hopeful shade of blue. As the Johnsons gathered around the breakfast table, Sarah could sense the palpable energy that coursed through them, igniting memories from their last visit to the shelter, a day that had irrevocably altered the way they saw the world. What will we focus on this time? Her mother asked, her voice buoyed by excitement rather than trepidation. I've been thinking about helping with meal prep. What about you, John? I'd like to share some skills, her father responded, the spark of enthusiasm evident in his eyes. I've got some ideas for community projects that might bring everyone together. Sarah's heart swelled with pride, her parents had taken ownership of their roles in this journey. I want to lead a discussion group, she piped in, fueled by her passion to connect. We can talk about arts and self-expression, it's something I think can bridge worlds. As they drove toward the shelter, anticipation crackled through the air. Sarah recalled how far they'd come since first stepping through those doors. The very idea of facing their fears and shared vulnerabilities had morphed from a daunting task into an exhilarating promise of growth. Upon arriving, the familiar sounds of laughter and dialogue washed over them like a comforting embrace. It was here that they began to shed the constraints that had once defined their family. Together, they dove into their respective roles with eagerness. As Sarah facilitated the art discussion group, small groups formed where stories blossomed. Voices poured forth as a tapestry of experience unfolded, tales of triumph against adversity and whispers of dreams flickering like candlelight amidst darkness. Each story echoed with truth, reverberating against the walls that had housed so many struggles, and also countless victories. In the midst of sharing, Sarah caught sight of Maya, the girl who had captivated her the previous week. What do you think about expressing your story through art? She asked, her interest genuine. Maya's face lit up, a spark igniting deep within her. I love to draw. Sometimes, I don't have the words, but the pictures tell everything. With a shy confidence, she displayed her sketches, a fire lit in her eyes. Here was a child mirroring Sarah's own journey towards self-identity, and each stroke of Maya's crayon illustrated a world bursting with potential. As the day unfolded, her parents engaged with others as well, discovering skills and talents buried beneath layers of their domestic reality. John led a group of participants in discussions about community design, encouraging them to dream up shared spaces that reflected the synergy between various lives, and Mary busily engaged others in creating colorful presentations that celebrated individual stories. Amidst the laughter, Sarah began to realize how transformative the engagement was, not just for the patrons of the shelter but for her family themselves. They had each found a place within the intricate mosaic of lived experiences. The conversations molded them into advocates, igniting understanding where fear had once reigned. As they waved goodbye to familiar faces, Sarah felt a sense of fulfillment swelling within her. They were no longer just an isolated family wrapped in their insular world, they were active participants who had taken steps into a greater narrative, immersing themselves in a culture of empathy. Can you believe how much we've grown? Mary asked, her voice tinged with wonder as they drove home. Not just us, John added, nodding towards the flickers of vibrant life still lingering in the air behind them. This whole experience is creating voices that matter. Coming to grips with that reality sent a shiver of warmth through Sarah. They had embraced the challenge, one that had deepened their collective identity. Later that evening, while sorting through their shoes by the front door, Sarah caught her mother staring into the distance, a soft smile gracing her features. Are you okay, Mom? Yes, sweetheart, Mary replied, eyes glistening. I just can't believe how far we've come, together. I'm proud of us. Me too, Sarah beamed. And there is so much more to learn. This journey is about opening our hearts even wider. As they settled onto the couch for a quiet evening, the familiar scent of popcorn lingering in the air, each family member carried a newfound sense of purpose. They were bound not just by blood, but by a collective commitment toward growth, understanding, and compassion. Tomorrow would bring new challenges filled with uncertainty, but instead of fear, they felt a steady pulse of solidarity and belonging. They were ready to face it all not just as individuals, but as a family transformed by willingness and the embrace of another story. In that moment, a sense of profound achievement flooded over Sarah. She had taken leaps into vulnerability, and her parents had followed championing understanding over hesitation. And just like that, she realized she had achieved more than she could have ever imagined, the power of connection, the strength of community, and a bond with her family that would endure through whatever lay ahead. As she drifted off to sleep, she understood that their journey had just begun. Each day ahead would demand courage, but she knew they could face the trials together, united and resolute. This was more than a moment of clarity, it was a promise of growth, and it was a revelation that would echo through their lives for years to come. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now, this is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.